Hey guys, Raider here, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm kind of doing I'm doing a tier list video. Um, yeah, we're gonna actually do it kind of just vocally here. So the tier list here is pretty straightforward. It's purely based on a couple different factors: enjoyment of leveling, your ability to level, um, the damage of the class, or how viable it is to clear both maps and bosses, and then the lack of required optimization or trading to play the build. So optimization meaning like you need to take a very specific setup. You can't just play it as a casual player and have fun and or a viable build is what I mean by that. And I'm going to start at the top. The highest class, in my opinion, is Sorcerer. Um, Barring you don't play Fire Mage. Fire Mage is ass. I made a Fire Mage just to see what it is. I had to actually tack a Comet in to have a viable build. So if you don't play Fire Mage, it's pretty good. I think Fire Mage is terrible because it's in the melee tree, basically. Melee does a lot of fire damage right now in their tree, so that fire damage is obviously just going to be dog shit for no apparent real reason. But Sorceress has the probably strongest leveling experience in terms of enjoyment and the ability to clear screens. Has a pretty solid time clearing bosses and maps and stuff, and has some pretty crazy setups. So it's like at S for me. And then the next one is going to be an A plus for Monk. It's an A plus for a couple of reasons. The leveling experience kind of screws you into only going ice for the beginning couple levels until you get the bell, and a couple other set of tools. Because Killing Palm and the Falling Thunder, while a great combo for minions, kind of sucks ass when it comes to bosses because some bosses just don't have ads, and also Killing Palm likes to miss targets that you're clicking. So you'll occasionally Killing Palm and then you'll teleport in, and a lot of times you can't even like get there to Killing Palm in your early leveling, because like you'll arrive and just die. So because he's so squishy, so his leveling experience can be a little rough if you try to make the electric synergy and Falling Thunder, Killing Palm, all that to work. You'll obviously solve this later on, and you'll start clearing screens in like 3 buttons and shit, so his endgame experience is quite nice. But in terms of leveling, enjoyment, and flexibility of the build, it's a little bit kind of pigeonholed until you hit like level 20-ish, from what I've experienced. So it's at A plus because of that. If they made Falling Thunder maybe a charge skill instead of a power charge related thing, I think I would probably just fix that solution. I don't really know if that's even required because the class is just good, but Ascendancies are great, damage is good. Next class is going to be kind of a weird one. The next class is Archer, sitting between B and a S. And the reason it's listed down here currently is because it doesn't have all its skills available, so I don't have all the information. But realistically speaking, its damage is pretty solid. It's got pretty straightforward skill tree. Its DPS is fine. It doesn't really have a whole lot of issues. The poison build is like pretty solid, even without having the proper like concoction set up and everything. It really doesn't have a terrible amount of issues. You get good evasion. You don't have to really deal with armor. Yeah, it's just an overall like pretty fine class. The problem with it right now is the fact that it sort of lacks like good screen clear without having a couple like shock arrows and other setups to really have that. You really have to tech into kind of one style of build to enable that. So like my poison archer can clear screens really well because I have 6+ poisons on a target and spreading stuff. But if you're playing like a standard just I auto attack archer, it's not amazing. Yeah, you can get bows and get chaining and a couple other things to make it not as bad, but if you take that versus Monk, Monk is going to outperform it. The reason it's kind of sitting up there at potentially being an S is depending on the skills that it gets, but also your luck and build quality can really just play into how fast it clears. So it's sitting kind of in an abandoned area. The next class is, for me, currently C. It's Mercenary. Mercenary is terrible right now. Its damage, I don't think it's awful, but its grenades suck, and its build skill stuff is super clunky. Its leveling experience is also kind of terrible. The big issue with it is it has to reload, basically. Just remove reload. It doesn't need reload. Just set it on a slower attack timer. I think everyone would be fine if we shot slightly slower currently and never had to reload. And also, this would eliminate a lot of clunk, because right now you have the shoot and the reload buttons for all your different things. Why? Just let us hit the button to fire the grenade. Also make them impact grenades at default, because this bouncy shit is stupid, because it bounces off enemies, and by the time they go off, people have walked past it. So the entire class, as a general, at its core, is just kind of unplayable. Its damage isn't bad. There are setups that you could do that will clear screens and do endgame content, and you know, you still do damage. It's just, it feels really clunky to play, and just generally like, why just not an impact grenade? Why do you have to make these bounce? And yes, obviously there are ways to fix this and whatnot, but realistically speaking, I think it just needs to remove reload entirely, and it needs to have just impact grenades for everything, unless there's like specific grenades that are not really doable for that. And then my next class is gonna actually be Witch at D, which is like a D to like Q tier, basically, like absolute trash. And the reasoning for this is Witch's problem right now is how they've redesigned the minions. So minions are 99% of Witch's damage. And actually, we're gonna go to town while I kind of showcase this problem here, because this is gonna be the easiest way to do it. But Witch is down here with Warrior. They're the same tier. I'm gonna put them in the same tier. Warrior actually can outperform Witch in terms of damage and playability if you have a good early game weapon, basically. Like, it's incredibly easy. So I have this weapon, the Fog Hunt. It's item level 66. It's a pretty solid amount of damage. You put this on a warrior, your early game damage is solved. You don't have to worry about it. Witch doesn't have this capability. Witch's early game damage sucks ass. Her only damage currently is minions. Minions are terrible in PoE 2 currently because of how they work. So how minions work, I'll just grab a random gem here. Oh, I can level all my shit up. Sweet, we'll do that later. How minions work is they automatically revive. You can't resummon them yourself. So the big problem right now is if you actually look at the minions that are here, there are a lot of the damage and a lot of the existence, but let's look at Contagion. Let's just do this example. Contagion level 12 does 19.4 damage per second. Okay, it does a 3x if it spreads, but we're going to look at the base damage. Let's look at Warriors. Let's look at Warrior's Mesa skill at the beginning. Let's see what is your 373% of your attack damage. What's Bone Shatter's shit? 528%. 270. That's gonna out damage Contagion at base. Okay, how about Unearth? Is Unearth any good? It is 45 to 67 at this level. Let's just look at an elemental damage. Oh, 212. Seems like it's pretty shit. I don't know, why is it so bad? Well, the reasoning is because they don't want the minions to be insane. What they need to do, I literally will parrot this for fucking millennia. Get the fucking minions out of this tree. Remove them. Put them in their own category. Give Witch some spells. Because right now, every single Witch spell, if you look at this shit, is going to underperform in terms of damage compared to literally every spell. The only spell here that is actually on par with anything of its tier at this current level and at any level is Hex Blast, and that's if you have like a curse on it. It'll then outperform everything. Yes, the minions are cool and, you know, really good. You want to hear the problem with them? Anything that screen wipes, you don't have minions the entire fight now, because now with one reses, oops, it's another screen wipe, because everything likes to AoE everything. So minions are just terrible because you cannot resummon them yourself. If you could spend mana to just resummon your minions, it wouldn't be a fucking problem. But they did this really cool thing of like, oh, you have permanent minions, except they take 9 million years to res, and all the little minions that you get to kind of help fill the gaps. Because you have like limited minions in the beginning, they're all paper and just die instantly, which means your minions don't res quickly enough, so you're just permanently fucked. So the single target damage on this character is terrible. The clear and enjoyment of the class is a little bit better with the buffs, but realistically it's ass. The warrior clears better than the witch early game, and the overall like clunk of the class is heavily minion based. I mean, there's way more minion skills than actual damage skills here. Like, if we take a look, we got 1, 2. We're gonna include this as damage because it technically does both. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll say 8 for this. 9, 10, 11. You have 11 minion skills. How much damage do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 damage spells. Oh, 5, sorry. 5 damage spells. And then a couple curses. Fucking really? Look at how much damage spells do we have in this class? I wonder, literally fucking all of them. Why the hell is this what they did with Witch? I get the archetype, I get wanting to have it fit into its thing. Just get the fucking minions out of this tree. Make minions a new tab. For the love of God, dude. It's so terrible. Witch having fucking 5 damage spells is just nuts. You have 5 damage spells. Your auto attack, by the way, is ass because it only does chaos damage. You can't really equip another wand, and you can't. Well, you can, but it's usually terrible. And you can't like swap the staff because you lose your minions. So this class is gutted. It's just bad design. It's not good. They need to make you able to resummon your minions. You need to have way more damage spells. Like if you look at Elemental, they have 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. What do we have on here? 4, 95% of it's useless, and a bunch of 3s. You're like never taking this. It's good for maps, but you try it on a boss, not gonna do shit. Like it's just damage. It's just bad. You need to buff this class. You need to remove the minions from it. Put it in its own category. You can then adjust the minions independently from Witch and not do this dumb thing where Witch is still perma-nerfed. Because right now, in terms of enjoyment of playing Warrior versus Witch, I had a better time playing Warrior than playing Witch. Blood Witch is also just an ass tier ascendancy. That thing needs a buff. It needs a massive buff. It's a joke. But yeah, so it's really great dealing with this shenanigans. Yeah, there needs to be adjustments because it's just not okay. Okay, it's level 12 that we're at. So yeah, Warrior obviously is the worst class just because of the clunk in Warrior. Warrior clunk is just really bad and generally sucks. It's unfun to play with. Half the skills bounce off enemies that make no sense. Other times you have hitboxes that don't land. I still had more fun playing Warrior than I did playing Witch. Granted, I had an item that made my damage not terrible, right? So my tier list is a little bit skewed. This is probably still worse than Witch, but Witch is the bottom 2 class right now. And it's just literally because they are afraid to buff her damage because she has minions. If you just remove the minions from her tree, right, just make it its own separate category, you can independently adjust them. It'll be a little bit better because nobody wants the minions to be the primary source of damage. Because it's just bad. The amount of bosses that have a screen-wide wipe, a one-shot mechanic, the minions die too easily. And the minion AI is so bad as well that it's like half the time it's not even worth having them. I've had minions chase me around in fights instead of attacking the boss that they were 2 feet from. Their decision making is ass. In general, it's just not a good class right now, and it needs attention. Once you get on an early game and you get into mapping and you get Hexblast Online and all this other shit, yeah, okay, it's playable, but it should not take that long for the class to become a playable experience. You should have levels of playability throughout your gameplay. It should not be over or underperforming constantly. The fact that it requires you to get to a late game setup to have any degree of fun or damage is stupid. That's like my little tier list. I really hope they do buffs and not nerfs, I'm gonna be honest, with a lot of the content, because that's what we need. We don't need a bunch of nerfs. We need the game to be We need classes to be brought up to levels of other classes that are playable. Because right now, a lot of the classes that are unplayable or like less fun or just generally a terrible experience are that way because the other classes are just the clear, obvious, more significant choice. And I don't want to see them say, oh, we're just going to nerf Comet, for example. We're going to nerf fucking Archmage. We're going to nerf this shit. We're not going to make the other things more viable or competitive with that skill. We're going to just nerf the skill that is the only viable option. So I'm really hoping they don't just blanket nerf shit. I mean, we'll obviously have to wait and see. They haven't released like an intention and patch notes or anything like that. But yeah, also, uniques need a massive buff. This unique is really cool sounding, but it's complete crap to use. It requires you to stop shooting your spells to do its DPS. So the entire second half of this skill is entirely like pointless and useless. What it, I think, needs to do is say Fusillade triggers on its own every 3 seconds. Like the Fusillade from this skill. And then it's buffed and viable enough to not be a huge problem. Because the Fusillade not triggering when it's at 6 stacks is a problem. If it was just like Fusillade triggers at 6 stacks, well, triggering by this weapon or something, I think it would be fine as well. But right now, it's a bad staff, in my opinion. I'm using it because I wanted to see if it was any good, but it needs a buff. A lot of uniques need a buff. This should just say trigger Ember Fusillade on casting a spell. Fusillade triggers at 6 stacks automatically. In my opinion. Like, this kind of staff is really cool. It sounds cool. It plays well, except for the entire point of the unique is completely undermined. The only reason that you actually care about this staff, realistically, is the mana regen and the spell damage. The free spells are barely ever usable, unless you're in a boss fight and you're rolling, and then it fires off at the boss, and then, yay, it's worked once in, like, 30 uses of the staff. So, a lot of weapon uniques, I think, are just undercooked. They need a little bit more of a buff. I think this one triggering its Fusillade when it's at 6 stacks or every 3 seconds would probably be fine, because realistically speaking, your cast speed and shit's going to cap that out. Every 3 seconds isn't great. I think it should be lower than that, personal opinion, but I don't know like the cast speed of variants of builds. But I honestly think that this one is not really worth using ever. I'm using it because I want to, and why not? I also think, small thing on this tier list as well, rarity needs to be addressed. I don't think it needs to be removed, I think it needs to be altered so it doesn't affect currency, and your currency drops are more based on your level and the area level than your rarity. So for example, at this pace of the game, I should be getting occasional orbs for magic items and normal items. I should be getting far more exalts and other things. I think as you level later into the game, the drop should skew to be more usable currency for that stage. I don't think there should be this, oh yay, an augmentation orb. Oh yay, we get 4 more augmentation orbs. At level 50, we totally care about these. We're totally crafting with white items all the time. We're not just getting rares. So they need to adjust that slider. They need to make it so at like level 30-ish or Act 3, I guess. Assuming there's going to be 6 acts, at Act 3 you start having that skewing happen. Maybe the beginning of Act 3. So you start seeing less augmentation shits and more better usable currency. And by currency, I include shards in this because, like, I don't want these. I don't fucking need these. We get way too many of these. I should not have to get Magic Find to make this into something usable. It should just be at base less dropping and should be a more usable item more of the time. Because it is not ideal to have this work this way. This should be an Exalted or Exalt shard or something like that. It should not be this. It should be a shard to make something more usable. I don't even care if it's a Regal shard, okay? Just make it something usable. These need to be addressed. I think the Magic Find I don't think should be removed. I think it's a good way to kind of have your build solved for like getting better items. I feel like it's not bad for the game. A lot of games have it. I feel like people who think it needs to be removed are just stupid. to be honest. I think it should feel required, and I think it feels required because of currency. I think it should be in the game. I just think there needs to be some adjustments with it. But I honestly think currency needs to be based off your level and not off of your magic find or whatever, because it's just stupid. I should not have level 60 characters getting fucking Aug Orbs, okay? I should maybe get one Aug Orb on occasion, and maybe a bunch more other orbs, like Regals and shit. I should be getting Aug Orbs, okay? It's just, there's pointless. It's completely fucking pointless for this level. I'm wearing rares and uniques by now. I'm not using fucking orbs of transmutation and Aug Orbs. Just stop giving them to me. Skew this to be a like 1% rare, ultra rare drop so you don't fucking see it. Make exalts and other things like gold and rares and regals and uniques and whatever is more common the higher level you go. And when you hit mapping, maybe you make it like 25, 25, 25, 25, whatever. Make it an even amount for all of it, so you start reaccumulating your currency that you've spent. But right now, this like guts crafting. Still getting these constantly. Like here, let's look at my my stash here. I do spend a lot of currency because I know they're gonna probably do a wipe at some point for the game, so I'm not sitting on a bunch. But out of 2-3 characters I got to end game, let's look at. Let me pull this shit out. I'm the only one putting stuff in here, so we've got this amount of Aug Orbs and this. We've gotten 1 Divine I got today, and we've got 2 Regals, and that's it. I don't have a single set of Exalts, we don't have any Vals, we don't have any Chaos Orbs or Alchemy Orbs, we don't have any of that shit. Because the game keeps fucking giving you Orbs Augmentation, because you don't have Magic Find. Which is just terrible. I should maybe have like 50 of each, and more of these. Because what's the fucking point of having crafting in this game if you can't fucking get the things to do the crafting? So I hope this gets addressed as well. That's kind of my tier list video, and just a small, like, rant, I guess. I will see you guys in the next video.